Your personality style will depend on how those two like and trust work together. For example, a person like me, I'm on the right side of the graph, what we call. I'm a people person. So I have to like you before I can trust you. I have to like you personally before I can trust you. The other side of that graph, those more reserved people that are task oriented, have to trust you. Give me the facts. Let me understand what you're all about, not who you're all about. Then they'll like you. So they've got to trust your numbers and what you're saying is true, then they can like you.
Are you one that believes that you're born or by a certain age, a young age, that you develop these and that's it for the rest of your life? Or are you one that believes that it kind of evolves as life experiences?
That's a great question. And the answer is,
is our vow and our philosophy. The sales wolves hustle hard, it's our policy. We create economies, goal crushing anomalies. Came in this world to dominate with no apologies. Gotta get it till the day that we cease to breathe. Sales wolves got the tools that you know you need. Real lessons, confessions of what it really means to go from nothing to something and everything between. Married to the game and we took vows, gonna get it poppin', yeah, when you hear them wolves howl. When you hear them wolves howl, yeah. When you hear them wolves howl.
Hi guys, welcome to the Sales Wolves Podcast. My name is Tyler Harris.
Joseph Caldwell.
Got a special guest today,
Alex Swire-Clark.
that's me. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
and
Awesome.
we all are the Sales Wolves.
Oh, that was werewolfy though. That was kind
It
of
was a little
all right.
werewolf.
That's all right. Full moon was last week.
As long as you have the hair to back it up.
Well, I got it up here.
Full moon.
Full moon and a full moon.
So this is episode 32, right, of the Sales Wolf Podcast. Before we get started and jump right in with our guest, a reminder of why we do this. For those watching it for the first or maybe the second time that didn't remember, you want to tell them why we do this?
I mean, we do it because we love salespeople.
Yeah.
And we want to remind everybody that sales is it's one of the greatest professions you can have. It's one of the hardest, right? Mm-hmm. And so we do this because we're in sales. We've had a level of success in sales, and we want to be able to share the things we've done. We want to be able to help somebody else out. And we want to do that free of charge. If you're willing to seek the information out, the information's out there, right? So, and then not only show appreciation for salespeople, which we believe that everyone is a salesperson. Every single person on this earth, at some point in time, you have to interact with another human being or animal and sell them on something, right? So, and then just provide tactical information, provide stuff that you can take with you right now into your career and make it better. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I think this episode, you'll find is a little bit more on the tactical side. This is some of the stuff that we're going to go through, but just wanted to start off and let Alex just introduce yourself to the folks watching or listening, and just kind of give them a little maybe 2-minute story on who you are.
So elevator speech action, I can do that. I'm the CEO of Solor Incorporated. We are a nationwide medical billing company, and that's what I do in terms of growing our bigger business. I also speak professionally. I'm a certified human behavioral consultant. And what I'm here to talk about today is how we take our virtual team, so our entire team is based around the country in about 12 different states, how we've been able to grow that team, keep low turnover rate by using the concepts we're going to talk about today with human behavior. Also going to talk about how you use that in a sales situation and better connect with folks. Many times we've talked about all the great sales gurus out there. Brian Tracy is one of them. He has his 7 steps to the sales cycle. Companies spend millions and millions of dollars on that back end when it comes to how do we close? Gotta close, gotta get a yes. And that's great, and that's important. Not gonna take anything away from that. But bottom line is you don't get to that step unless you are doing a good job building rapport with people and building trust with folks.
Right, you know, one thing that we've talked about on here is that people buy from people they
trust
and like.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
They trust and like you, they'll buy from you.
That's right. And depending on your personality style will depend on how those two like and trust work together. For example, A person like me, I'm on the right side of the graph, what we call it. I'm a people person. So I have to like you before I can trust you. I have to like you personally before I can trust you. The other side of that graph, those more reserved people that are task-oriented, have to trust you. Give me the facts. Let me understand what you're all about, not who you're all about. Then they'll like you. So they've got to trust your numbers and what you're saying is true. Then they can like you. So that dynamic.
I would say that that's how we operate more in our sales with what we do. Is that we create trust and then they like us 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
we don't
100%.
even really. It doesn't. I mean, we don't even really care if they like us. They just need to trust. I mean,
Right.
At the end of the day,
Because that environment is set up that way. Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. But in typical sales, if you're in businesses day in and day out, and you're meeting with somebody, if you are able to pick up ahead of time that they need to trust me first or they need to like me first, you'll know exactly what to do walking into that meeting. That's a big deal.
That's correct. So we can get into it a little bit later, but
that sounds like communicating with intentionality. I coined that phrase. We were talking about that.
Liar, pants on fire.
Before the camera came on.
That's right. In addition to other things we were talking about, but yes.
Yes.
So that's what I do with sales teams, with organizations, go in there and try to have folks and communicate with intentionality.
Yep.
And the story that I start with is we all have that favorite teacher that we had growing up, and you can probably think about who's yours is right off the top of your head. And
Mrs. Moncrief.
And because she was all world, right?
I love her.
Yes. And
That was my first love. Did I tell you that, Tyler? She's my 5th grade teacher. I professed my undying love to her in 5th grade, man, and she was so nice. She was like, oh, she treated it very sensitive. She didn't laugh at me, which would have crushed my very soul. But yeah, that's no fair. Yeah.
And mine is Mr. Lear, who was very animated.
So you professed your undying love to?
I did not profess my undying love. I was an admirer, and not a secret admirer, just a regular admirer of his style and how he taught. He was my 11th grade U.S. history teacher, and what he did was he made that class fun. And he would go up to the board and he's scribbling up there, and he's talking like this, and it's going to be big time in the Boston Massacre, and people are going to die, and so I'm like, whoa! But he made that fun for me, and that matched my personality. As what we call an inspiring type or an I type. I like to have fun. I like to be engaged. It has to be meaningful for me in that way. And so he connected. And the thing about that is, though, we made a connection. We had that bond. It was unintentional, though. We just happened to match personality types in the way that we communicate and perceive the world. Now, if he was more of what we call a cautious type, which is that reserved, kind of task-oriented type, then his class would have been very different. It might have been, okay, today we're going to talk about the reasons behind the Revolutionary War, why was it a problem, and what were the matters at hand, and what were the outcomes, and okay, and that's great, and okay, but you
that wouldn't have connected.
I'm not there yet. You got to do something to get me engaged. Versus somebody who's that same type is like, oh yeah, we get to find the reasons why. They ask those questions why, those cautious types, all about the process and what led up to it, what were the events that transpired, those little decisions, minute decisions about when to cross this river or when to attack this particular battlefront. They really get involved with that. So if you can take that in terms of a personal life or in terms of professionally from a sales standpoint, if you can read folks, take this information, understand yourself first, then understand the person that you're talking to.
That's a big one right there, because if you don't understand you, you'll never understand.
That's correct. You've got to know where you're coming from and how you perceive things and how you communicate. Then you understand others. And the third part of that is being able to adapt. So it's going to be difficult for me to get into that cautious zone because that's not where I live. But if I know I'm talking to a CFO and it's all about the numbers to him and why we need to go with you, then I understand, okay, that's it for me. I don't need to go in there and shake hands and, hey, are you an Eagles fan? I don't need to connect with him from a rapport standpoint like that. I need to go straight to the facts and get to the why behind the reason. That builds trust, and then, again, that'll have him liking me more at that point.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting, what you were just saying, it seems like that's the reason why it's so difficult. And that example with a teacher, but even more difficult is like a public speaker when you're in a room full of 100, 200 people that are every single one different and are receiving you differently, and being able to relate to each of those people in a way, because that same teacher that you love, there was a person sitting next to you that hated.
Correct.
because it was the opposite of what
That's
the
absolutely
way
right.
they received. So how, we talk about pastors or public speaker, all these people that are speaking to large groups, and how they're able to me, we'd always talk about Gary Vee, but the reason
Pastors,
Gary
they
Vee,
just shame you into loving them.
unbelievable.
You're so wrong, boy. You know where you're going for that. Now pass the plate.
Guilt is powerful when you're a public
is.
It
speaker.
is. Yes, it is.
That's true. But what Gary Vee has done so well at is incorporating that Q&A part of his speeches every single time, so that he's able to relate one-on-one, and by relating to the 12 people that asked a question and being able to, I guess, feed off of that person and understand the way they're being received, he's able to get large groups throughout the audience, because the way he related to that individual caught somebody else over here.
Caught
That's
this
like
group,
some pocket,
caught
yeah,
this group.
exactly.
yeah,
caught
which
this
seems to
group.
me to be such an important thing, but
Yeah.
That is powerful.
it's interesting.
And you can use the structure of your speech to do that, or your presentation to do that as well. So if I'm going into a larger audience, what I'll do is I make sure that within the first 2 or 3 minutes of my talk, I've got that why. Why are you here? What are the goals that you're going to have out of it? So for my dominant styles, my high Ds is what we call them. They're going, let's move, let's get this done. Let's what are we going to accomplish today? I want to know the 5 or 6 things I'm going to get out of this. And then the why people, those high Cs, those cautious types, they're going to want to know, why am I here, and why is this important to me in terms of from a sales standpoint? Why is this beneficial? Why should I see you versus Gary today?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. The I's just want to go in there and have fun. Those inspiring types, they want to have a good time. Yeah. And those supportive types, those S types, they're going to want to make sure that I reach out to other people and them on that kind of one-on-one, kind of like what Gary does, in terms of really trying to impact someone so that he can get to the bottom line of what's your particular issue, problem, concern, how can we address it so that you can have tactical tools to get out of there today.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Do you see a particular, when you talk about the DISC profile,
Sure.
do you see a particular profile that has a higher correlation of success in sales, as far as the DI? Within our organization, the DI is typically is going to have a larger chance of success with us. Is that across the board?
Absolutely. DIs are perfect blends because they are driven and that task oriented, and they're doubly outgoing. So they've never met a stranger. They'll talk to a stop sign if they sit there long enough. And then the D behind that is that driven, that doer, that determined. Those D words describe a D. And so you give them a challenge, and unlike what an S would do, kind of a supportive, shy, reserved person, they might say, "Oh, I don't really know if I can do that." A D's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that times 3. Watch me."
Right. Yeah.
So that's their attitude. So it's a total dynamic change there. So when you recruit folks, if you're using this model in terms of hiring assessments on the front end, hey, do I have a high I here? A high I is great. They're beneficial in terms of they're outgoing, they're talkative, they're persuasive, they're influential, but in the face of a no, they may not be as compelled to go back and say, okay, I got a no here, let me take the next step and just follow up, because the no is just the first step to a yes, right? So that D person, that dominant style, would come back in and say, okay, let's keep going, let's keep going, let's keep going. Yes is the final destination. No is just another step, another step, another step, another step.
That's interesting.
No.
And so at the end of the day, we're talking about self-awareness.
Correct.
That's it. But the important step is obviously first understanding who you are. What are your thoughts on the best way a person can really figure out who they are?
Well, if you start by taking an assessment of some kind, and there are so many great models of human behavior out there. Myers-Briggs is one that's commonly used in the industry, Fortune 5s today. That's a great model. It's difficult to understand though, because if I've got 4 different letters, I'm an ESFJ. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Yep. Versus
I'm a high D. Now, everyone's a unique blend of all of these traits. Like Joseph, I know your profile, you're a DI, and you've got some others. You've got a little bit of S and a little bit of C. My C is like minuscule. It's like a 3 on a scale of 100. So I'm about as organized as dirt. I just don't, organizational skills are not my thing. Right. But if I'm a person that takes that DISC assessment, I can clearly see, even in a little 6-page concise version that we have, you can say, okay, here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, here's where I'm good at, and it will show you potentially what careers suit me. If I'm a high C, I'm an accountant, I'm a scientist, that kind of thing. I'm always thinking about the world and always self-reflecting. What can I do better? Why am I here? That kind of thing. Those people are always asking that question. And your S's are, you're going to be your supportive people, your secretarial types, your teachers, those folks who care about you more than they care about themselves, give you the shirt off their back, and then your pants too.
Those are the people that I've got to surround myself with.
That's correct. That's correct. So allow people to serve me by, what's your phrase? It's a great phrase that you use.
But I serve others by allowing them to serve me.
There you go. There you go. So that's a tremendous phrase. So, but
I said that in Vistage, and dude, they were like, "What did you just say?"
It's like you're a servant's servant.
Yes,
I'm a servant. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So those S's are the glue of any organization. They keep people together, and they go the extra mile. You give them a story, you give them something to get passionate about, and they will run and run and run for you forever. Problem is, just from a percentage of the population standpoint, is that roughly 10% of the population worldwide are high Ds. So there aren't that many out there. If you think about it logically, your Ds are driven, doers, they're their own boss, they kind of do that kind of thing. So they're pretty much going to be your entrepreneurial types. There aren't that many entrepreneurs out there who are willing to take risk, take everything on their shoulders and just go bam, 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 bam. And so trying to find good salespeople with that D and DI blend is going to be tough, just because statistically speaking, there just aren't that many. It's the smallest percentage of the DISC model that's out there.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so then moving forward, being able to identify things in other people so that you can then adapt, what are the techniques in that?
Okay, so you can look at things like, for example, before you ever meet them, you can look at things like email.
Okay.
So let's say response to an email from a D, let's say you send them a piece of information or a PDF or a link to a website. Their response would be, got it. That's it. It's direct, to the point. I'm in, I'm out, I've got other things to do. So I got it, done. And I would be, this looks great, man, can't wait to read it. Exclamation points, emojis, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Your S's are, this appears to be phenomenal. I can't wait to understand more about this. I'm looking forward to taking time to clearly understand it before I get back to you. So they're all about the sensitive side, making sure that you know that what you have is good, and I'm going to take my time with it, and they don't want to do anything to offend. They are not about conflict. S's are everything but conflict. And then your C's are, I received your email at 7:47 a.m. I will have a time at 11:30 a.m. this afternoon to respond. I will be responding somewhere between 12:30 and so this highly detail-oriented. Dude, you just could have said yes and I would have been good. But the C's go the extra mile to let you know exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. They're very, very detail-oriented. But they can do that through.
In which style would be the person that just doesn't respond?
Probably a D, because they got other things to do. Y'all they're selling and killing it.
No, maybe myself.
Maybe.
So that's what you can do before you ever see a person. So you can kind of get a read by that. And then when you get there, we've got tons of tools how you can look at their clothes, their office space. You can look at their verbal gestures. Your D's are going to be kind of flamboyant in your face, loud. I's are just going to be smiling all the time. Hey man, I'm just excited to be here, dude. How many vendor check stuff you have on the wall? That's awesome, man. I haven't seen stacks of books that high. S's, again, C's are going to be more reserved, again, so they're probably not going to say anything until you speak to them, and they're going to be a little withdrawn, a little slower, but they'll be supportive and sincere in terms of their tone. So let's walk through
That's super helpful.
Yeah, really.
So just in 2 minutes, let's walk through a quick evaluation.
Okay.
All right.
So you're a boss.
Okay.
Saying good job on your evaluation because I did a great job, and I'm the employee receiving that. So as a D, okay, you're going to be a D boss. I'm going to be an S recipient. All right,
Okay.
go.
So we just evaluated.
Yeah, just I did a great job.
Good job, man. That was good. Yeah.
Thanks, I guess. Did I really do well? What areas?
Yeah, everything was great. Yeah, the area number 1, 5. Same on the rest of them.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. So you saw there the kind of the little bit of unease there, because D-man is like, good job. Okay, next. I've got 3 more of these to do. The S is looking for, not appreciation, but understanding of, how could I do this better for you? How can I please you more? They're pleasers. S's are pleasers. Okay. So if I'm I to I, same scenario.
But I don't know what the I would do.
I would be outgoing, let's have fun, get excited. You're part I. You channel that.
Yeah.
You channel that.
Hey, you really did an awesome job on this, man.
Dude, woo! Yeah, man, thanks. Woo!
Now next.
Okay.
That's the day.
Don't channel that inner D back in here. And then the C's would be very long-winded. So I'm going to be the C boss, and you be a I.
Okay.
An I recipient. Okay.
All right, how'd I do?
Joseph, let's start here with number one. Number one here, it says that you like to be in charge, and that's great in most situations outside of where we are, but in the office, you just can't boss everybody around. You know, that old Terry Tate inside linebacker, office linebacker, we go around smashing people. That's just not the way we kind of do things here. So in the future, if you can refrain from tackling people, that would be good. Okay, you good with that?
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. Okay, you understand why?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to number two. And that was like 15 steps more, so it's going to take 30 minutes to do the same thing because they want you to understand why they graded you the way that they graded you. That why question is huge. So overall, when you're talking about just people in general, high D's, the dominant types, are going to ask the question, what? What's involved? What do I have to do? What's going on? Your I's are going to ask, who? Who's going to be there? Who's involved? You know, am I going to be on TV? You know, so they're all about the who and the what and the. That's why I's are so big on Facebook. They're always posting stuff, and it's all about them. Instagram, Snapchat, all about high I's.
I would know what's on there because every time I get on there, the only person I see is Tyler.
Oh, well, he is a manly man over there, man. You know, I like the shirt.
He's on all of the.
Who's that cute guy with the plaid shirt on?
It's because I'm your only Facebook friend.
Oh dear. Time to pick it up, man.
That's because you're my only friend.
I deleted all the others.
The S is
I have a lot of invites out though, so leave me alone.
They're coming, man. Just be patient. They're coming.
Come on, friend me.
This S is ask how.
Right.
How's this going to work? If in terms of, are we going to offend anybody, or are we going to include everybody on the team? How are we going to make this happen without any conflict or any casualties? And your C's are going to ask why. Why is this important? Why are we even doing this in the first place?
Why are we here?
They're all about process. If you don't give them a process, you just tell them, I need you to go do this right now. They're going to say, why? It's that little 3-year-old kid that came to your door. Johnny can't come out. Why? Because he's inside working. Why? Because he has to do homework. Why? That little, and that's the way we're wired from about the time we're like 4 or 5. Yeah. And so it's not about birth order, it's not about parenting stuff and things like that. We're wired that way. And so in terms of reaching out to other folks, you can't really change someone to fit your needs. You've got to adapt and fit where they are.
So are you one that believes that you're born or by a certain age, a young age, that you develop these and that's it for the rest of your life? Or are you one that believes that it kind of evolves as life experiences?
That's a great question. And the answer is that the studies show that traumatic life events can change you.
Okay.
Traumatic medical experiences can change you. For example, you get struck by lightning.
Okay.
That can totally change the way you're wired.
I've been trying to make that happen.
Yeah, I think you would be a totally cool C, just thought-provoking, just sitting there, introspective. I can see that.
Be awesome.
I've been trying to get you in the big shit by lightning too.
So, divorce, loss of a loved one too soon, those kind of things.
But I would assume there's probably ones that are easier to transfer to and ones that are like, you're probably not going to ever go from a this to a D or a...
It depends on the situation.
Unless it's like something where it's literally like a brain, something chemically.
Exactly. So, yeah, and in terms of how we deal with problems, there's a thing we use with our clients called the kaleidoscope. It shows you how you adapt within the circle of the disc as it is. So if I'm working in my eye, which is where I normally am, and I've got to get to C, so C's in the bottom part of this corner. If I do it like this on the screen so you can see, I have to come through my D up here to get down to my C. So I have to go into let's go to get to working on a spreadsheet because I can't stand doing all that little nitpicky detail-oriented stuff. And so we talk about how to adapt through your style, and that's another thing that we do. So nobody wants to see you flex pecs. I mean, seriously.
Just trying to make Tyler laugh.
It's messed up, man.
Dude, we like to mess around on here.
Yeah.
God, this is unbelievably good information for a salesperson, for any person, for a doctor for that matter, going in to see a patient for his bedside manner. I mean,
Exactly.
It's unbelievable for an attorney dealing with a judge, dealing with other attorneys, dealing with clients. It's unbelievable for engineers when they're I'm not really sure what they do, but
The engineer stuff.
when they're engineering
The person
stuff,
that drives the train.
the person that drives the train.
So there was something I remember learning a long time ago, or hearing a long time ago, or talked about in sales when you're across the table from someone and you're asking them questions, and that person says, I see what you're saying versus I hear what you're saying versus. Is that, do you remember that? Like saying like, hey, do you see what I'm saying here? If they are a person that's visual versus their auditory, I don't know. That's just something interesting that I was thinking of.
Yeah, two different techniques that come to mind there.
I don't see what you're saying.
So like if you ask somebody a question, they said I hear what you're saying, versus I see what you mean.
I don't hear what you're
like
saying.
I hear, I see.
Do you ever say I
Do
smell
you
what
feel
you're
me?
saying?
Do you feel me?
Do you feel me?
I smell what you're saying.
I smell what you're saying.
I think you're talking about The Rock, right? Do you smell
What the rock is cooking.
But to get to your point, Tyler,
Man, I can screw a podcast up in a heartbeat.
Swing the ditch, pull it back. Mirroring is one of the things that they teach salespeople.
Got it.
That mirroring thing. So you try to mirror their stance and posture and whatnot. If they're leaning forward, you lean forward, and that kind of thing. And that only goes so far.
Right.
But it's important. But when you combine that with some of this other information, then you really become stellar in terms of how you can do things. And then obviously the other thing you were talking about is in terms of do you hear, do I see what you're saying or hear what you're saying? If you repeat back to them to make sure that you have clarity,
Okay.
that really helps if you're talking to a C.
Okay.
Because that means that you're really hearing what they're saying, and again, that whole building trust thing. I know exactly what you just said. So what you're saying is you don't understand why that tree is green and only has like 5 limbs on it when it should have 7. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah.
So and then yes, and then so boom, that creates more. Okay, they're listening. I've got a little more trust. I'm starting to like this guy a little bit more because he's actually listening to me.
Are there some?
I hear what you're saying, but I wouldn't consider this a limb. It just goes straight up. So there's really only 4. I mean, would you consider that a
Well,
limb?
considering that I couldn't even see through your microphone how many limbs it had, that was just a good guess. So, all right, so sweet. Again, I can't even see the top.
I was just trying to use what we're learning here.
Are there any good like upfront questions that you can ask to kind of gain a little bit more insight on what
That's a
somebody's
great question.
personality would be? Like any techniques there?
Yeah.
Like,
so
have you taken the disc profile?
By any chance, are you a DIS?
By any chance, are you a
So
high
I can
DIC?
so I can sell you better.
So I can.
yeah, a good well, the obvious questions that you can't necessarily ask, but you want to get to the bottom line of it is a person. There are 2 questions: are you outgoing or reserved? And the way that you ask that is, hey man, are you kind of a go out and enjoy your time on social life to recharge, or do you like to just read a book and kind of relax to recharge? You ask that, and they'll
Just
say,
general conversation.
General
like, hey,
conversation.
how was your weekend?
Exactly.
My weekend
So,
was awesome because
I
I just
did
stayed in
X.
all day. And,
Boom.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you got it.
And then you got reserved.
separate 'em.
Okay, so
You
now you've got
separate
that low part of the graph there in either S or C probably.
Yeah,
and then you say, well, did you get anything done this weekend? Oh yeah, man, I got to check all my boxes. I did this and this and this and this. Or I just went out and hung out with my family at Carowinds or whatever it was. So if that's that, if
Then
they're
you-
Carowinds, they're people,
Yeah.
and if they got all their stuff done on the weekend, because that's when they catch up their
They're C.
task, and now boom, you've got it.
It'd be
Reserved
interesting to
and
do that
task.
like as
Boom.
an exercise, just for like a week. Just say like, hey, for the next week, every person you come in contact, see if you can figure out what they are.
Yeah.
And just write it
That
down.
would be
That'd
a skill worth honing.
Yes.
It'd be very interesting.
I wonder what.
Or just like
the
around, like
rifle
with
is.
organizations, that could be an interesting exercise with just their employees. Just like, hey, everybody kind of walk around, talk to each other, and see if you can figure out.
Yep.
And then we'll come back and see what they really are and see how well you
Yeah.
guessed. It's interesting.
Because then if you do that, then like I said on our sheet here, you've got all kinds of things. You can say, okay, are their what's their priority? Right? D's are their priorities: power. I's are about people. S's are about pace, keeping things steady and smooth, and then C's about procedure and process. You give a C something without process, they're just going to go up a wall. And if you tell somebody, I want you to, as an S, I want you to go out there and do that no matter what.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm worried about that person's feelings.
Yeah.
How's that going to impact our relationship? They're all about relationships.
Tyler, you are not an S.
No, I'm not.
But S's, they take so long to do things. You guys want it done yesterday, and they're just going along. For example, if you take your high S daughter and you're trying to teach her how to drive, the last place you want to take them is I-85 during rush hour. They're freaking out, they're going crazy, and you're just like, pull off to the side, and you're like, stop, because they're so tense. If you try to hurry them up, you're actually slowing them down. When you try to hurry an S, you're slowing them down. They have that pace going on, and so they're going to do it at their own pace. And if you do, it's on lockdown. You just locked them up until they get untense. Those Ds, you can't go fast enough for a D. They're like, oh, come on, we're going faster. I's are about that same. They're about pace too, but they're more about, let's just have fun. I don't care what we're doing as long as we're having fun doing it. And we can be in the car and stuck in a traffic jam, but if we got a little mini board game out here, we're playing, some kind of app together. It doesn't matter. So
that's fantastic.
When we sat down with Gary Vaynerchuk, I've never met someone that such a high D that was just so glaring that it was almost uncomfortable in the beginning, because it felt, and a lot of people will say this about him, they'll say, oh, he's always interrupting, he's always, he doesn't interview well, he does this, that, but he's 8 steps ahead of what you're saying, and as soon as he understands what you're trying to say, he's trying to get you to 12 steps down the road. So,
yes.
Like he would say, got it.
That's him. That's right.
And I'm sitting there like, I've got this script that I memorized that I was going to say to you. Got it. Okay.
That's right.
And he'd like, okay, got it.
Land your plane, Tyler. Land your plane.
Literally, it's like, let's get. So what's the question? What's it was like in the beginning, it caught me off guard. I mean, I'd seen it, watching the videos, but it was like, holy, like I don't know how to keep up with that pace, even though I'm a D, high D. But it's just, that was very, very interesting to me to see the dynamic of how people react to that, because some are like, whoa, hey, I've got, like, I want to talk about it.
Your S's are very put off by Gary, very put off, because he presents himself as uncaring to them. How they perceive. He's not. He's very caring and trying to get you the information that you need to be successful. But they're like, he just cut that lady off.
Yeah.
Man, what a jerk. And when he does that, that's how an S responds.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that dude is going crazy. Look at how fast he's going. And I'm just entertained by the fact. And the C is, am I getting the knowledge from this? Why would that concept he just talked about? He just skipped 3. Why did he skip 3?
How many S's do we have in our room?
In our room, we have 3 who are above 50%.
Who is that?
That would be myself. That would be, I think, Tim Justice.
S is your highest?
No, I is my highest.
Yeah.
Myself, Tim Justice, and Mike Davis.
Interesting.
Yes. So the majority of the folks in our room are D's, without question. And that makes sense because most of them are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I did not start our building company. I'm CEO, but I'm one of the founders, but I'm not the owner of that company.
Right.
So I'm the supportive staff side of things. Our owner's more D than I am. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
It's such, even outside of the business world, it's just such an important skill to be able to master, just to be able to build relationships, just to be able to talk to people in the way that they prefer to be spoken to, or the way that they receive the best. Is just, it's like the most respectful way that you can ever speak to someone is on their level.
Yeah.
And I can imagine someone that's really mastered that. You have a conversation with that person, then one that just is oblivious to any of this, you have a conversation with that person, you're gonna feel like that person, almost like they care,
exactly right.
They respect, and you're like, man, that, like, you'll remember that person. You're like, man, there was something about that guy. He just,
that's right.
And when I talk to him, I just feel like he knows me, like, or understands me. But it's because he's talking, it's literally as though, like, I speak Spanish, and this guy talked to me in Spanish. This guy talked to me in French, and I had no idea what he was saying. But this guy completely understood.
That's right.
Obviously, in the sales process, that translates tremendously.
That's why we call it the rapport advantage. I mean, you have an advantage over everybody else who doesn't have this information, because a lot of people have Myers-Briggs, or they have DISC, and they think about, oh, I'm a D. And that's where it ends.
Yeah.
They don't take the time to understand the other styles and then adapting. That's the key, is you have to adapt. Mm-hmm. So if you're coming over here, and I'm looking on Tyler's sheet here, my D likes to be in charge. So if I speak to him as a guy in charge, if he bucks at me and I back off, that's a sign of weakness from me. But if Tyler comes at me and says, that's not gonna fly, I said, yeah, it is. Oh, now I've got his respect. Yeah. Because I'm acting in a D way. I'm direct, I'm dominant, I'm demanding, and it's going to be a kind of almost like a Rocky Drago, Rocky IV kind of deal. So versus as an I'm more worried about the people involved. What's going to happen, all that's going on. He's going to say, that's not going to work. I said, okay, that might not work for me, but it's going to work for everybody else, right? We're good? Yeah. Okay, so that's good. So, there's so many practical applications on this sheet. We could have 10 different podcasts just talking about the need to know. From a sales perspective, that is huge. So your Ds need to know what it does, when is it going to happen, and what's it going to cost.
Yep.
Your Is, how it enhances my status and who else uses it. That's the whole, Snapchat, I want to be on the cutting edge of everything social. The S's, how's it going to affect my personal life, my personal circumstances, my feelings.
Nathan's got to be a high IS, isn't he?
IS.
IS.
Yeah, I think he is IS actually, or SI.
Pull him up.
And then the C's are all about justifying the purchase logically. Why is this a good purchase for us? What's going to be our ROI? All that kind of good stuff, and how's it going to work?
Man, that's good.
So when you go into a situation and you know that lead person in that room, at that panel, whatever is a C, you got to come out firing with, not I'm from this company and da-da-da-da. You got to come out and say, 70% of our clients have seen a 32% increase on their da-da-da-da. And so as soon as you do that, you got a fact right for that C. He's like, okay. I'm listening.
Okay, now I'll listen.
I'm listening, exactly. If you come in, hey, how are y'all doing? I had a joke. I was on the back of a plane. You've lost that C.
Yeah.
So you start with the C's because they're harder to please. You can always tell a joke later to make the I's and the S's feel more comfortable as people-oriented person, but it's too late to get that fact back. You've got to start with the fact if you're dealing with C's and D's. You have to. You have to.
That's interesting.
Now, do you look at someone's natural versus their adaptive style?
Yes, so when I'm looking at things, I'm looking more for the natural style. The adaptive style is kind of where they are in their environment and how they're affected by others, and so I want to go to their core, and so I'm looking at the natural style first always, because that's where they're going to flock to.
Yeah.
Anytime they're nervous, natural. Adaptive is going to be but when they come back to I got to make a decision. This is going to impact socioeconomically the people in my company, the market share price of the stock, whatever.
It's always interesting to me, the dynamic of when you have a person that's natural and adaptive is so different.
Yes.
It seems like that's got to cause a lot of internal conflict. When you're at home, you're this guy, and at work, you're a completely different person. It seems like that can't be sustainable long term.
It's not.
It is.
Oh yeah. So like my C, like I said, on a scale of 100, my C's in the toilet.
I've done it for years.
But how's your health, man? Oh, rock solid. Okay, well there we go. So for everything I set out, we'll see you guys. But
I do have schizophrenic splits with reality. Keep going.
Okay. I'm scared now. I'm going to move. I would move this way, but I'd be out of the frame. So, but if my C is so tiny in terms of how I'm able to deal with details, don't go there. That when I have to do, like I said earlier, spreadsheet.
Why would you look at me and say?
We pause now for this message from Brand X Water Company.
This is vodka.
I don't think you understand. That is Tyler.
Well, I don't know Tyler well enough to say yes or no, but he's a lot bigger than me, so I'm just going to refrain. Anyway, being able to adapt is what caused that mental stress. For a C to get up, let's say you've got a CEO who's a high C, trying to get up in front of a group of 10, 20, presenting to the organization, man, their palms are sweating, they're dying. It's crazy. Trying to get me to do spreadsheets all day long is a high I is miserable. So this whole matching of personality to whatever their profession is, and more specifically inside that profession, what their job duties are. Because I can be a manager of sales manager, versus a guy who's actually on the front lines, and that's you want totally different characteristics there.
Sure.
I mean, I want a hunter out there on the front line.
Right.
A manager needs to be able to adapt, be able to see the bigger picture.
You mean the manager is not just the person that sold the most, and now they just become a manager because of just that?
Well, again,
That's not just the only prerequisite?
That's correct. Just because you're good at.
Sometimes it is.
Well, yeah. As we say,
but that's the problem that we see in so many organizations is that someone was superior in sales, and so they became the sales manager. They have no leadership skills, no management skills, and now they've been launched into this entire different dynamic, and it ultimately doesn't work out.
Right.
Which is not obviously not good. When in regards to building teams within organizations, do you find when you build a team that you want people that have each letter, or do you like bundling people that are in the same groups, or at least the same DI versus SC, or how does that work?
That's a great question, Tyler. And I don't want to deflect it, but it depends on the role that you have. If you have guys that are working, because you've got work groups, which is kind of like a golf team. Everybody goes out there and plays their own ball, and then you add up the scores at the end. But then you got a team that's like a basketball team where we're actually interrelated, and the success of the team depends on us.
So
what
about the interrelated?
So the interrelated stuff, you want to have, first of all, everyone on the team having knowledge of themselves and others using the model. Because if you don't, then it's pointless. But once they have that knowledge, then I want to have at least one of each, if that makes sense with the role that you have. If I've got engineers and I've got an engineering team that are working, I've got a mechanical guy, an environmental guy, and maybe a civic guy because we're doing a project for a city, then those are going to be all C's and I won't C's. I don't want a bunch of I's in there who don't have any clue about details and are going to get distracted and be shooting paper wads while the guys are figuring out numbers.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what the purpose of that team is before you start saying, yeah, I want diversity, I want balance. Because it may be that you want balance, but it's job
Depending on
specific.
the outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah,
What outcome do you want?
Huh.
Yep.
It's almost as though like you look into your organization, you're like, hey, I need to get this done. Let's get all the C's in a room.
Correct. An example is my billing company. I have 3 I's in my billing company, and I've got 36 employees. Two of those people are either in sales. The other person is my head of my customer service team, and the other one is the secondary person in that customer service role. So everyone who's in customer service is on the I team. Everybody else in my organization has high level of C because they're doing billing, numbers, math, process. I don't want a bunch of I don't want a bunch of high D's. We're just going to get in there and just go click, 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 click. Oh, wait a minute. There was a process? What just happened? Oh, I just sent out $2 million of claims and I didn't check anything because they're just about getting the list completed. So yeah.
Do you see any natural patterns, male versus female, on what their behavioral?
That's very interesting, and there aren't any really specific numbers on that. The D's represent 10%, like I said, 10% of the population. Your I's are around 20 to 25%. S's are your largest at 30 to 35%, and your C's are about 20 to 25%. So just in terms of from a sales perspective, if I'm going out there and I don't have any other knowledge, then those numbers, using this information, I know that.
Say that again for people so they.
Okay, so 10% of the population are roughly 10 to 15 are D's. You got 20 to 25% are I's, 30 to 35% are S's, and then back down to that 20 to 25% number around 4 C's. So the majority of the population are going to be people oriented, the I's and S's. That's the majority of the planet. So, and then if you break it down from top to bottom, the majority are in the bottom half. So, if you have to guess, the majority of the folks that you're going to be dealing with are going to be people-oriented or they're going to be task-oriented. Some combination of that, which is why it makes sense that the majority of the pattern is S's. So, you don't want to go in there with the kumbaya, cheer, rah, rah, rah to start with. You want to go in with more facts and go more reserved to start with. But then you can let your passion show once you've been in there for a minute and you've gained that trust. Again, it's all.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I wouldn't have guessed that S would historically be the highest. But the reason I say that is because with what we do with our business and with recruiting, where we look at this information, we're recruiting for salespeople. So all the ones that I see all the time are salespeople, which means they're probably going to be more on the DI. So I would have said that like somewhere in between probably the I or the D. But that's interesting that D is actually the lowest. But that's a good thing because we're trying to find D's.
Can you imagine a plant with 30% D? I mean, think about the road rage. Think about it would be crazy.
War.
It would be exactly because every one of those D's got to be their own boss. I got to be in charge. I got to do this, and you're gonna have this all the time. So you got to have those peacemakers.
What about with relationships?
Yes, that's the peacemakers.
No, I was saying, what is a peacemaker?
Patriot missile defense, nuclear deterrent.
So when you have like a heart attack, it keeps your. How about relationships, like in marriage? Any particular ones that go well together? Is it opposites are better? Is it similar or better?
Well, opposites tend to attract. Yeah. If you put my wife's graph and my graph up there, she is a high CD, like almost off the chart, and I'm a polar opposite IS. We could not be literally any farther away in terms of the strengths and the severity of our traits.
Me and Kim are exactly the same.
And that works out well in a marriage from a parent standpoint.
It works out well right up until you divorce.
We're Charles Barkley. That's terrible, man. That's terrible.
That's terrible.
But it works out as well for parenting because my wife, as the high CD, is detail oriented. So
sense.
when it comes from a vacation standpoint, okay, I've got the tickets lined up, and here's what we're going to do. I've got the stroller, I've got the thing, hotel, it's all detailed. There's no vacation. It's about getting there and getting the agenda done and getting back on time with everything checked off the list. That's my wife.
That's my nightmare.
And me,
Just like go and just let's figure it out.
And me, the kids were complaining about, we were at Disney World, kids complaining about that. And I'm like, well, let's just go back to the hotel and ride the water slides. And my kids are like, yes, Dad, and so we got the little inflatables, and it says no inflatables allowed. And of course, I'm going up there and I'm riding down on inflatables, and the lifeguard's coming. We got 3 runs left. He's coming back, and I'm trying to avoid. So that's me.
Let's go back to the hotel and play with the bubble wrap.
Exactly.
That came in that box.
So opposites are great for parenting because I get to roll on the floor and play with the kids. My wife does the detail stuff. But as a marriage, it's very stressful because, again, unless you have this information, you can adapt. Then my wife's always, why can't you have a coherent thought in your head? Why can't you follow a process? And I'm thinking, why can't you be more spontaneous?
Yeah.
Why aren't you a little less harsh with me? Your words are very harsh.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to Taco Bell, and she's driving the car as a high CD. She's going to go, welcome to Taco Bell. And she's going, I need 2 chicken soft tacos with a medium Pepsi. And she turns to me. That's what she orders every time. C's are consistent. They order the same thing every time. They got a restaurant they like. It's over and over and over. Don't try anything different if you got something you like. And I'm like, what's on special today? Okay, I don't want that. What's on a Chalupa Super Combo? And she's glaring, like about to stare me in the face, like, order some food. Okay, just give me a taco. And they'll say, chicken or beef. I'm like, oh God. And so my wife's having a heart attack. So in a marriage, you can see where that's just going to grate like nails on a chalkboard for her.
Yeah.
And so I have to.
Do you suggest, how quickly do you suggest getting divorced?
You don't. I suggest you taking an assessment and then having somebody talk to you about that. Yeah. We actually have a program.
Is it true if you don't use it, you lose it?
Is it true?
I'm just going to leave that alone from a human physiology standpoint and just talk about the fact that, if you don't use knowledge, you definitely can lose it.
But to me, it seems it's so important, especially in those relationships, to number one, realize that person is that person and it's not going to change, and you have to just understand that that's just who he or she is.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to have to learn to deal with that and adapt to it. And then on the vice versa, like that person's going to learn, like, this is who you are. Like, you can try to change it, but it's only going to cause frustration and problems.
Friction.
That's right. And that's, to me, just that statement alone would set so many relationships free of just like, okay, so now we need to figure this out. That's so important to be able to. It's almost like they talk about love languages, all that stuff. But I mean, this is so much more.
This is
scientific.
Right.
Yeah, right. To be able to talk to your spouse in the way that they want to be.
Well, like what you were saying. You were saying it's. That guy speaks Spanish. I spoke Spanish to him, and this person over here spoke French to him. Well, if you're with your spouse and they speak D, or you speak C, or you speak I or S or whatever it is to them, that's going to make an enormous difference in where you sleep that night.
That's right.
And you're D.
And from a balance standpoint, you were talking about, is it better to have opposites or whatever? If you're 2 high I's, you're going to have a great time together, but you're never going to be on the same page, and you're never going to have a checkbook balance. You're never going to have, I thought you paid did you pay the bill? That's going to happen. And then with your C's, you're going to, they're just going to be very planned, oriented, very calculating, and that house is going to be very cold. Typically, they really don't know how to relate to others very well because they're reserved. So their kids are going to feel like sometimes they could. My dad doesn't care about me. Well, how do you know? Well, he's never told me he loves me ever. I've never gotten a hug from him. That's not in a C's nature. Yeah. That's not what they do. They're reserved, task-oriented people. They are not touchy-feely at all. They are not. That's just not who they are. Now, I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but as a general rule, their watchwords we talk about is that they can sometimes be cold, and when that happens, then the kid who's at high I or even a high S, who needs that to know that they're loved, who needs to know that they're cared about, there's when you start to talk about, teen depression and things like that, and we can go into peer pressure and all those other things. But yeah, so the problem with having two similar personalities married to one another is, yes, they have a lot of common interests. Yes, they tend to think a lot, but there are a lot of what I call Swiss cheese gaps in terms of their relationship from a detail standpoint or from a relational standpoint, depending on your style.
So when you're getting married, what you're telling me is that you can either have a great relationship or you can be great parents, but you can't be both. This is what I heard.
You can do both. You can do both, but it's
difficult.
It's difficult.
Right? That's what we're talking about.
It's a struggle,
easy.
and you've got to put in time, and you've got to be understand that if you have the information, it's your responsibility to adapt. You're the person that has the information. You've got to take it and do that. And so my wife and I, thank goodness, have this. And so I know that she wants the bed made every morning just because she likes it neat and tidy. C's do. So I never made the bed as a kid, never made the bed in college, never made the bed when I was single. But I make the bed every day now. And that's just a tiny little thing that when she's getting out of the shower, walking from the shower to the rest of the room to wake up the kids or whatever, she says, the bed's made. That's cool. That's nice. It's just a little thing. She doesn't necessarily need flowers. That's not her thing.
Yeah.
S's, need to have some kind of, like a card every once in a while, some flowers, or I love you, sweetie. They typically are more touchy-feely, that kind of thing. And so it does kind of relate back into the love language just a little bit.
I love to be touched.
Yes, you are. You're my friend.
I love it. Tyler hates to be touched.
I hate it. It's making me uncomfortable to shoot touch. To be completely honest. But again, that's back to the whole topic of this episode. That's communicating with intentionality.
Exactly.
Intentionality.
And so whether it's a relationship or whether it's in sales, it's just being intentional about the words that are coming out of your mouth, which is super important.
Yeah. And your actions, because that's where the cycle of conflict happens. You say or do something, someone interprets that based upon their perceptions of the way they're wired, then that generates an emotion, which then generates a response, which is either an action or words. And then that goes back to you, and then the cycle starts again. You interpret that, and that whole cycle happens.
So we've asked this to a guest before, and I'll ask you, what would you say behaviorally? What would you say a sales wolf would be as far as their behavioral style?
What's the ideal sales wolf?
Yeah.
I would say that their behavior style should be a DI from a DISC profile.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the sales process that a company or an organization has. If you have farmers, I don't want DIs out there because they're going to be pressure, go. If I'm farming, I want someone more relational. I want more IS. Hey, it's all good. Anytime you need us, we're here, that kind of thing. So very much more a calm, but with some personal side of things. If I'm a hunter, absolutely. DI, get out there, get after it. Don't settle for no. The sky's the limit. If my goal is 100%, I'm shooting for 200% or 300%. Very goals, very, very driven folks. So again, it depends on the sales process.
Yeah, that's true.
Love it, man. It's good.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of good information.
It is, and it's important. But it's just like anything else. It's easy to use, and it's even easier not to use.
That's right.
And that's the thing, and that's what we hope people on this podcast are getting out of it. Is hey, like I took something from this today, and then I can actually go use and actually go figure out, number one, like, what is my spouse? What are my coworkers? What are my relationships?
What am I?
We're just friends.
That's
right. Friends, and just figuring that out. And
so, Alex, how do people get a hold of you? How do people get a hold of the test? Things like that.
You can visit our website at thereportadvantage.com. You can go to alexswire-clark.com. Hopefully I'll be able to share this link on our Facebook page and our Twitter account, and people can reach us like that. But yeah, we have programs for marriages. We have programs specifically for selling. We have programs specific for real estate sales, how to close from that standpoint, and pretty much everything in between, from families to professional life. So we can kind of tailor the program how they need it.
I would think real estate agents, that is crucially important, because you're a lot of times dealing with two different people.
Exactly, with two different styles. And so the lady,
whoever
everyone says the lady wants a big kitchen and all that kind of stuff,
Maybe not.
That's not always true.
Yeah.
Because if she's not an I, she's not going to be hosting a whole lot of people. She wants some functionality. If she's a high C, she's going to want, where is the laundry room? If it's not with the kids' rooms, or if it's not with me, if it's not a master on the main, that kind of thing. So you have to be able to know that.
And how they interact with each other, so that you know who's making the decisions.
That's correct.
And who to
That's correct.
interesting.
That's correct.
And who's making the money?
That's right.
Anyway, that's
Happy
good.
wife, happy life, man. That's my thing.
Absolutely. Did you say happy wife or happy life?
No, I said happy wife, happy life, comma. No, it wasn't an or. No. Dear Lord, please stop the podcast quickly. Help! Help!
We love it, man.
Don't watch
I
me.
love it.
So again, this was episode 32, which, by the way, if you haven't caught the theme yet, it is communicating with intentionality. And I got a lot out of it.
Me too.
Certainly. We need to do guests more often because every time we have a guest on,
Learn a lot, right?
It's a lot, yeah. It's
Yeah.
great. It's awesome.
You can thank me for setting this up.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I won't thank you by touching you, but I'll thank you.
I'm going to
I'll
thank
thank you
you
quickly
by
and move on.
touching you.
Isn't that a bad 80s song?
He's rubbing my leg with his foot right now.
Oh, dear.
I touch myself.
Okay, I'm scooting away. I'm scooting away.
All right, guys. So if you got anything out of this podcast, as we did, if you could do us a huge favor, it's the only thing we ever ask, is just share it, whether it's on Facebook, iTunes. If you can share the iTunes link on Facebook and make sure that somebody else sees it, because this is important stuff. This is actually stuff that can impact a person's life, not just make them some extra money in their sales career, but actually provide a ton of value in their relationship.
Save your marriage. I
Yeah.
mean, my God, this is
100%.
important information.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing this.
Absolutely. So with that, I am Tyler Harris,
Joseph Caldwell.
Alex Swire-Clark.
and we
Thanks.
are the Sales Wolves. Ow!